Over the past year, WeAce has established a strong presence in the Middle East, securing a diverse range of clients across the region. Our continued growth and success reflect our commitment to excellence and tailored solutions for the clients in the geography. And on this special one-year milestone for WeAce in the Middle East, we bring to you a special episode of the WeAce Spotlight series with Mariam Elsamny, Head of Consumer Banking, FABMISR. So Mariam, with this perspective, now you've had a dynamic career so far. Tell us a little bit about what were some of your inspirations and motivators in this journey.
Okay, thank you, Anupam. Thank you for considering my career to be dynamic. I certainly see it as such, but it's good to have that affirmation from the outside. There's a lot of things that inspire and motivate me, and I'll start with people. People are my biggest inspiration. People, my peers, my colleagues, my subordinates, and so forth. I love to learn from their creativity, from their passion, from their experiences, and dealing with people. I mean, that adds a lot to you. Secondly, the challenges that we go through as leaders are actually your biggest opportunities and your biggest inspirations once you've overcome them. You learn from them, you readapt, you move forward. Personal drive, so an ambition to make a positive impact. That's something that's within me, instilled within me. I'm here to make a difference. So I'm not here to go unnoticed. That's everyone should believe in that. And once you believe in that, you will make that difference. I learn from gray. I learn from the color gray. So not everything, those black and white situations to me are boring because they're black and white. There's only so much you can do. But gray and something which is an unknown kind of gray box that you need to work on things to turn it into black and white. That's what inspires me the most. And I would say finally, or I should have said it first, actually, it's innovation and technology. I think that's really one of my key. I'm always trying to learn to see how can I bring new technology into existing processes to kind of stay ahead and to cater to the younger generations and so forth.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Mariam. Looking back at your career journey all along, what would you say were some pivotal moments that shaped your own leadership style?
So let me start with, I used to work in Citibank Egypt and I moved to Citibank UAE. And my boss told me at the time, Mariam, be careful. You're not going to be Queen Bee, to use his words, and I didn't understand what he said at the time. And then I moved to the UAE and I got the shock of my life, because in Egypt, I used to be quite a senior person. And, I pick up the phone and things get done. I speak to a partner for a meeting, we schedule it. When I moved, I kind of, I started to, operate. And I found quickly that, no one is giving me their time. And I pick up the phone, nothing gets done. And I call a partner and they say, okay, we'll see next week, the week after, we'll try to figure out a time slot, and it was just a very, very humbling experience. So I went, as they say, from hero to zero. And I had to go from zero back to hero again. And I built back that quote unquote seniority or status and so forth within the organization in no time. But that was a really humbling experience and taught me that you're always being reborn, and you're always, you're not going to stay who you are forever. Every move that you make, you're going to go back to level zero and you're going to have to perform again. So even when you take on a bigger role, you're going to go back to level zero. Doesn't mean that you're bad, you're great, but it's a bigger role. So level zero until you, until you prove yourself once again. I'll give you, do you need other examples or?
No, I think that's absolutely fantastic, Mariam. Thank you. Okay. So you spoke about a couple of things, obviously, the fact that branch manager at a fairly young age and managing all of that, and then moving geographies, and then suddenly realizing that all the connections, credibility, etc., that you had built up were actually pretty much nothing in the new place. You had to set it up from scratch. And this sounds like a bit of a tough moment, but have there been other tough moments in your career, and how did you handle some of those?
I think the most recent or the toughest moment, in the recent past is really when I work for first Abu Dhabi Bank FABMISR, as you know, and FAB acquired Bank Audi in Egypt. So there was a merger that was taking place between systems, people, culture, process, everything. I have a team of over 1,000 people, and it was a really tough experience, in terms of, one, how do you bridge that distance? How do you create the culture of acceptance from both parties? How do you deal with people who don't accept you because you come from the FAB side and they were the bigger, bank at the time? Bank Audi is a bigger platform. While dealing with all the system integration, process integration, and hundreds of thousands of customers, there's no miss. When you cut over, there's no miss with the systems. For that was really one of the toughest moments, and revolving mainly around people. How do you bring the two cultures together and make people want to achieve together? How do you make people accept the new quote unquote owner? That's really something from my recent past. Yeah.
Thank you, Mariam, for sharing that as well. I think, and one question that I probably have is that from a leadership journey perspective, and obviously you've kind of traversed this journey for yourself. What's your perception? Is it different for a woman versus a man? What are your views from a leadership journey point of view?
I'm going to say an opinion which might be contrary to the general opinion. I really don't think most of the time that there's a difference, okay? Because a leader is really defined by his or her ability to inspire, to lead, to achieve business results. And while you can argue that a woman, what's always said is that a woman has multiple roles. She's a mother, a daughter, a wife, and then she's also leading. But I can take it on the other side. Anupam, you're a man, you're a son, you're a father, you're a husband as well. So you have your own, if you, in a family, if you're kind of sharing responsibilities, then the load is kind of equal. I don't know. I find this a bit overrated when they say women and so forth. However, having said that, there's, some cultures don't foster growth for women. They don't accept that a woman leads, for example, men, large populations, male dominant populations. They don't accept, or sometimes some cultures, they take decisions on behalf of women, thinking that, for example, Mariam might not be able to go on this international assignment because she's, her family won't accept, or because she's married, or because she's whatever, So sometimes those things do exist, but once you're in the right culture and the right environment, I don't think, and you work, for example, like I work in FABMISR, I don't face that issue being a woman. I never have that issue that I'm viewed upon as not being equal to a man. I don't know if I've upset anyone with this response, but...
No, but I think it makes tremendous sense, because you're right. Men play different roles as well. Though I think, as you said rightly, in certain cultures, there is a certain different expectation from them versus women. And I think that's part of the cultural upbringing to that extent. But absolutely. You've also worked in roles which obviously have demanded significant responsibility from you, Mariam. How do you balance some of the pressure of these roles to actually staying true to your own values and identity? Have there been instances when these have been at cross purposes to each other?
I love this question, Anupam. Okay, I really love it, because sometimes you don't realize, but you get put in situations where, that really comes into play. And I think to respond to this, I'd say it's all about staying authentic. Okay, how do you stay authentic? And by this phrase, I mean, you have to have your own personal compass. You know what I mean? So what do you stand for? What are your ethics? What are your values as a person, as a human being? You have to have self-awareness. You have to keep reflecting on situations and on what's going on around you. You have to be able to dare at times to speak your mind and go against the tide. You cannot shy away from going against the tide. And finally, I think you have to have the right kind of support system, whether it's within the organization, colleagues, peers, even subordinates, or family and friends who they're your sounding board. But this is one of the most important things for any leader. It's not getting swayed into a certain tide or a certain culture that is against your own personal compass.
Fantastic,
I hope
Mariam. Yeah, that made tremendous sense. Now, probably a little bit of a tough question coming your way. From everything that you've learned around leadership, what's the most important lesson for you, and how do you apply it in your day-to-day work?
Right. So leadership is not really about, not only about driving results and achieving business impact. Leadership is about leaving a legacy behind you. Okay. You want to become known for something. I always say, I want to be known for something. I want to be hated or loved. I don't want to go unnoticed or ignored. And by leaving a legacy behind you as a leader, few things. One, how many lives did you impact? How many young leaders did you create? Who has flourished under your kind of guidance and so forth? I kind of love it. Sometimes when people hire from our team, and I speak to someone, I say, why are you poaching my people? And they say, because they've come from your school, the Mariam Elsamny school. So we know that they're good. I mean, that to me is a tribute to the team, and what they've achieved, that they really, that there's a legacy and that somebody's, impacted positively by it. So business impact, of course, is critical. Instilling values in a big organization is one of the toughest things, because you have many different values and many different beliefs and many different viewpoints, right? So you're the captain of the ship. You're trying to build a house. You're trying to put those pillars into place, and you will face resistance. So it's all about how do you try to convey your thoughts or try to instill that positive culture, the creative culture, the empathetic culture, and the one that wants to achieve and set high benchmarks for itself.
Absolutely. And I think that sounds fantastic. I think I'm just going to kind of move the conversation to a little more around, let's say, inclusion. And you touched upon that, right? There are different team members, different voices, everything and all you pair. So from your perspective, Mariam, what does genuine inclusion look like? And what can leaders do to make it even more real in organizations?
Okay, genuine inclusion is not just about diversity. I mean, diversity has become this, this word which everybody tries to use. But genuine inclusion is really about creating a culture of belonging, creating equitable opportunities, understanding, by the way, generation gaps, and sometimes I struggle that with my own self, but understanding that the younger generations they have a different work-life balance. They have a different work-life mode. They need their space. So you have to be accepting of that and nourish that. You have to also, understand that well-being is important for people. So, and it's becoming even more with the younger generations. So you have to take that into mind as an organization. I mean, before, it's always been work, but you have to realize that you need to create that balance, in the way that you handle things. Now, how do you kind of instill that, or how do you lead that? One is, you have to lead by example. You have to, walk the talk, as they say. You have to actively listen to people, and you have to be empathetic. You have to relate to their circumstances. You have to create a safe space for dialogue. So if somebody's got a concern or somebody's got something, then they need to be able to speak up. You have to be a mentor, you have to be a friend, you have to be a boss, you have to be many things. So you have to learn to be tough at times and not so tough at times. Bring out the human in you.
Excellent. Absolutely. And staying on the inclusion theme a little longer, could you also share an instance maybe where you faced a challenge related to your background or your gender? How did you navigate that experience? What could people learn from that?
I think I'll refer again back to the example I gave earlier. It's becoming that young manager at 25, and that was the most kind of shocking experience to me at a young age. I learned early on that life is tough, and there are many challenges out there. So you have to learn how to bridge the gap with anyone. Okay, even if I'm 25 and the other person is 50, You have to learn to bridge the gap. Now I'm bridging the gap the other way around. I'm 50 and people are 25 and 30. So you have to learn to bridge that gap. You have to not shy away from anything. You have to think out of the box. Okay, so I had to do strange things. I was given an old branch. I had to tear down walls. I had to do all with no budget. So you have to really dare to do things differently, and don't be afraid of any challenge. As long as you are genuine within and staying authentic, then I think you can make it happen.
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to something that you shared earlier in terms of being true to who you are and therefore not letting circumstances kind of come with it. Okay. So what advice would you give to, let's say, women or other minority professionals who may feel underrepresented in their fields? And that could be due to the cultural situation, not necessarily because of somebody wanting to do that. So if people feel underrepresented, what could be some advice to them?
I think you need to build that confidence and resilience. Don't give up, and don't take no for an answer. You need to keep trying. That woman probably is in that culture and she's aware of the type of culture that she's in, right? It takes time. If you work in rural areas, for example, it's very different than working in urban areas. If you work in a public sector organization, which is a large, hundreds of thousands of employees, it's very different than working in a private sector multinational. So if you've put yourself in that environment, be prepared to deal with the challenges of that environment. Don't view everything negatively. You're part of a transformation. You're creating that transformation. Build your support network and remain confident and resilient. That would be my advice.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you, Mariam. I'm now going to go back to something that you said at the beginning, which was also about these are exciting times and, you wish that technology and innovation were available at an earlier stage. So what is the future of work, if you were to look at it for leaders like you? How do you see the future of work?
The future of work for leaders like me is evolving so fast, okay? And I think if you don't realize that evolution and you don't realize that times are changing, you're of the past, okay? So you have to, one, embrace digital transformation. This is really key. That changing the whole scene for every industry around us, So you have to, even if you don't believe that you understand it, then you have to get the right support system or the right know-how to understand it and see you're a smart leader. How can you bring it into your workplace? You have to embrace new generations. Okay, there is a gap that exists between the way you have been brought up, professionally, and between how the younger generations want to be brought up professionally. So you really have to understand, how these young generations work, and you need to embrace that. You have to embrace well-being, because it's all over. Every generation now is, how do I stay healthy? How do I stay fit? How do I spend more time with the family? How do I spend more me time? So you need to be very cognizant of this general theme in today's world. You have to be agile. You have to be fast. There is a need for speed, okay? You have to touch something and have it finished. You have to see what's happening around you with fintechs and with all types of tech organizations and how fast they bring things to market. You have to be focused on sustainability and purpose-driven decision-making. You have to realize that big data and data are critical for your decision-making. It's no longer just about how smart or good or how of a gut feel that you have when you take a decision. You have to rely on data. So there are many things that you need to do. You need to be closer to people. You have to have flatter organization structures. There are many things that you need to do to adapt to all of these changing themes around us to remain successful.
Absolutely.
What you did in the past is not necessarily what's going to continue if you don't adapt to these changing times.
Right. Thank you, Mariam. I think that sounds like the future of work is a lot more work, is the way that I see it in terms of adapting it to that.
Yeah.
So I think maybe just a focus on technology, and you did reference that during the conversation as well. So when you look at technology, particularly, we're hearing a lot about AI, we're hearing a lot about automation. How do you see this playing a role in breaking down barriers in the workplace? Are there any tips in terms of how can organizations harness these tools a little more effectively?
Yeah, I think if we're talking specifically about breaking down barriers in the workplace, technology and AI can definitely, add a lot of value. Okay, if you have a certain, let's call it employee value proposition. I mean, like you have a customer value proposition, you'll have an employee value proposition. So when you come to bring that to life, if you rely on technology and AI, it does wonders, right? So it could be, as simple as, how do I reduce any bias in my performance appraisal process, in my hiring process? You have to realize that nowadays there's a need, for example, for hybrid or remote working. So how do I use technology to bridge that gap of ensuring that you continue to have virtual collaboration and team cohesion and so forth, right? How do I continue this whole upskilling and e-learning process? How do I provide my employees with data to help bridge any gaps they may have? So there's a lot you can do with technology and AI. I'm a big believer. As I said, I wish I was younger, so I understood. I mean, I wish I was a programmer, actually, so I could do things myself. But you really need to get a grip on it.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Mariam, for that. Now, I think, Mariam, thank you overall for the insights, for the great conversation. To our viewers, thank you for tuning into this episode of the Spotlight series. Stay connected for more engaging conversations with industry leaders. Until next time, keep innovating and leading with purpose. Thank you once again, Mariam, and goodbye, everyone.